Build crafting in Destiny 2 has seemingly endless possibilities offered to you by the deep and varied subclass, mods and weapon systems to bring your very own Guardian to life. The most powerful and versatile of these builds define the PvE meta and can help you achieve incredible feats with strong toolkits to keep you alive, dish out immense damage and more importantly benefit your team. The following 3 builds here are the pinnacle of build crafting used by some of the best players in the game, and ultimately they can easily give you the ability to become legend. Well of Radiance is actually the strongest roaming super in the game, and I'm about to show you how to make it into a roaming super powerhouse. That's more than just one that you'll keep in your back pocket for boss DPS. In fact, you'll be popping well after well after well with this insane solo warlock setup whilst literally setting the whole world on fire. You probably think I'm crazy as it's the most static super out there, but you're wrong. Fortunately, this one allows you to use a bunch of your favourite legendary or exotic weapons and will give you maximum survivability on top of the insane damage output on tap, with the ability to deal with all manner of champions in endgame content. First, you'll need to rise from the ashes with the Phoenix protocol. This will basically half your super cooldown on final blows or assists whilst within your Well of Radiance super. It has diminishing returns after 50%, but you can still easily chip away into 75% or more of your super returning by just damaging further targets. Well is already one of the fastest charging supers too, and then with stuff like Ashes to Assets on top of a Touch of Flame, Solar Blob Grenade or even Orbs of Power from Harmonic Siphon and Firepower, you'll be popping them back to back. But the true unlimited power of this build all stems from a supremely potent fragment combo. This combo of fragments is only rarely seen on true roaming supers like Golden Gun, Hammers or even the Warlock's Daybreak super. But thanks to how Well of Radiance works, classing final blows from your solo weapons whilst within a well as abilities, you can just make everything go. And this is how you take literally any solo weapon to the next level with the Ember of Combustion fragment. This will cause targets to ignite on final blows with your solo super. Any legendary or solo weapon you use whilst within a Well of Radiance will count for this, and you can honestly chuck in whatever you like to maximise your damage potential. Most recently, the Warmind era exotic scout rifle Polaris Lance has been absolutely baking enemies in all levels of content thanks to some recent upgrades to its functionality, as its explosive solar rounds from its perfect 5th shot will apply scorch to targets, and thanks to some recently hot artifact mods, it's become top tier. Yet it's still the hierarchy of needs exotic bow from the Spire of the Watcher dungeon, which is hands down one of my favourites to use here, especially with it being one of the highest damage output primaries you can currently get, and it just works so well within this build. Each and every shot through the guidance ring will delete trash ads and melt yellow bars or champions, which when defeated will ignite and cause huge damage nearby, and even more so with the Ember of Eruption, which will increase the area of effect of your solar ignitions. You'll always have the guidance rings active, and if you have the catalyst you'll increase its rate of fire for the tracking arrows as you turn into Yondu but on fire. The Embers of Char and Ashes will add an insane scorching damage over time effect on these solar super ignitions and spread it to nearby targets, which all in turn count towards the effectiveness of Phoenix Protocol and your rapid back-to-back supers. Gone are the days of Warmind cells creating super-sized guidance rings unfortunately, but you can then add in a bunch of solar weapon surge mods which will add a stacking 22% damage boost on top of the 25% offered by your super. Use it with time dilation to maximise its duration to match your Well of Radiance, and you can easily collect all the Orbs of Power that you create by using the powerful Attraction mod. I personally like to also run it with a healing grenade to trigger Restoration ×2 and become a literal roaming tank with the Ember of Empyrean, which will keep it topped up near on indefinitely on solo final blows. You will need to rotate out some of the previously mentioned fragments to do this, with the Ember of Eruption being an easy one to get rid of. Plus, as long as you have a Well of Radiance available, this will allow you to break barrier champion shields, and ignitions will stagger unstoppable champions too, and it's absolutely perfect for popular heavy weapons like the Apex Predator or even the exotic Dragon's Breath. Simply make sure to position your Well of Radiance in prime position to give you 360 degrees access to as many enemies as possible, and you'll wonder why you've never tried this exotic combo before, turning a meme into the meta. Strongholds are as endgame as it comes for Titans in Destiny 2, and with swords just having a sweet rework, they are as potent as ever in the sandbox. These got a huge change last season because as well as the maxed out guard stat they intrinsically give to any sword, they can now grant you the powerful healing effect of restoration. Blocking any damage will grant stacks of perfect guard which max out at 100. Upon dealing damage with a sword with any amount of perfect guard stacks, you'll be granted restoration times 2. This will constantly heal you whilst active and tops out at 16 seconds if you should absolutely be going for 100 stacks, and it's super easy to do as Strongholds will not decay any of your sword energy whilst guarding and will give you a massive 80% damage resistance too. This is great for starters as it will allow you to revive allies in any sticky situations or just face tank damage from chunkier targets in high difficulty content whilst your team deal with mechanics or pesky trash adds. The Lament actually makes a perfect pairing with Strongholds in this setup, not just because it deals huge boss melting high burst damage like it always has with Banshee's Whale attack, but because it too can also heal you, granting you 10 HP per hit with the Red Consumption perk, which also stacks on top of Restoration's healing effect. Remember, for maximum damage with Lament, you'll want to do 2 light and 1 heavy attack to max out Banshee's Whale after guarding, and you can even use this combo for some bonus aerial movement to get out of any squeaky bum time moments. This would be great in a solo build, but Strand is the flavour of the month, and so it's time to go full Jumanji with the Banner of War. Any melee, sword, glaive, super or finisher final blow will grant Banner of War for 15 seconds, maxing out at 30. Subsequent kills will grant more stacks up to a maximum of 4, and it can be extended indefinitely, which will then at a 4-time stack grant you and allies 20 HP every 1 second within its 20 meter radius. If that wasn't enough, you'll get a 40% bonus to melee damage, 25% bonus to glaive melee damage, and a 10% bonus to sword damage too. The healing effect on top of restoration is absolutely insane and turns you into a literal tank, and with the added guard resist from Strongholds, you are literally unkillable in even the toughest of content. If you have a 100 resilience stat for a 30% damage resistance and any matching elemental damage resist, your health bar won't even move as you basically tease your enemies. You can go even further by chucking Woven Mail into the mix with the Thread of Warding for more damage resistance on collecting Orbs of Power. Drenger's Lash and the Thread of Continuity will help to shut down enemies by suspending them, and I've added the Threadling Grenade along with the Thread of Evolution for some bonus Threadling damage and the Unraveled debuff it offers to anything they attack, with the Thread of Generation aiding in the uptime of your grenade ability. Chuck your favourite Solar Glaive and Strand Primer into the mix, paired with a Strand and Solar Cipher mod from the seasonal artifact to create Orbs of Power, and the Solar Surge mods will add a serious melt factor to your invincible Lament. Chuck that Lament in the bin because you don't need it, as it's this forgotten dungeon exotic that you'll be needing, and it's the real deal. Plenty of encounters are now excellent for swiping away at bosses with swords, and Crota is no different. However, most popular setups will require somebody to not use a sword and instead go boop happy with the tractor cannon to apply a 30% debuff consistently. And whilst this is great, it takes a ton of damage potential out of your fire team setup, and it's where the Heart Shadow steps in. Heart Shadow's main exotic perk, Exhumation, still makes you invisible when using the heavy attack, and it will fire 4 short range void projectiles. These deal huge damage on their own, but the sword itself has some unique synergy with itself to massively increase the damage of both the light and heavy attacks. Being invisible for just a quarter of a second will then activate the Shot in the Dark perk. This grants a huge 25% damage boost on leaving invisibility within 2.5 seconds, but you'll also weaken targets for 6 seconds on attacking them. This 15% weaken effect on targets can now be applied from either your light or heavy attack too, effectively giving you over a 40% damage boost to Heart Shadow, which you can chain for as long as you've got ammo available. A heavy attack into a light attack and then a heavy attack once your sword energy is recharged will hit the maximum amount of damage potential, and remember the weaken effect will also benefit any teammates doing damage too. The heavy attack does consume 4 ammo, but if you have unlocked the exotic catalyst from the secret quest in the Duality dungeon, it'll boost your total reserves up to 56, which can be boosted further with some Void Reserve mods equipped. The catalyst also enhances your movement speed whilst invisible, making it perfect for escaping any squeaky bum time moments, and for a fun fact, the next time you run the raid, this also actually negates the weight of darkness during the opening abyss encounter in the Crota's End raid. All of this combined then negates the fact that somebody needs to run a tractor cannon, as the damage you'll dish out plus the constant weaken debuff that you can apply to a boss during a DPS phase will more than make up for the difference in the debuff offered by using tractor cannon. However, you can negate this even even further by simply chucking on the old faithful that is Night Stalker's Deadfall Shadow Shot Tether. This will apply the full 30% debuff to enemies for 12.5 seconds, as well as dealing decent damage on impact. If some pesky enemies get into the mixer too, it will also extend the duration of the tether. Tether always used to be the way, so it really is no secret, but if you want some super bonus extra secret sauce, you can chuck Foe Tracer into the mix. Its newly added rework is pretty bonkers to be honest, as dealing any ability damage to a boss will instantly grant a 4x weapon damage boost matching your subclass type, effectively a 25% damage boost which lasts for 10 seconds. As you're a pesky void hunter, your snare bombs can activate this, as well as your grenade of choice, with the vortex grenade combined with the Echo of Remnants being my personal favourite combo. As with all of these builds, they offer an incredible power fantasy within Destiny 2 and will perform extremely well in challenging content and even the upcoming Day 1 raid in the final shape and beyond. I highly recommend trying out and perfecting any one of these 3 builds for your preferred class, as they are easy to pick up and have highly rewarding gameplay loops once mastered. The Destiny Item Manager build links are down below in the description to help get you started. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.